So you might be sitting here feeling a little blah, like your life is not fulfilled with excitement and passion. Like you're not doing what you were destined to do. And obviously that requires change. But change is scary, right? And change can be confusing. But what I want to break down in this video for you is my 5-step process for creating massive change in your life. And guess what? The crazy thing is you can implement some of these steps today because they're so simple, so simple. So let's start with step 1. So step 1 is we need to do an analysis. So we got to gather this data, okay, of where you're at, where you're trying to go. That's very important. Where you're at, where you're trying to go. We got to look at what's in your bucket, right? So what are the tools and resources that you have in your bucket? So think of it this way, like what are your strengths, right? And those could be personal strengths. They may be, monetary strengths, time, etc. You've got these tools in this bucket that are ready to be deployed and to work towards creating this change. So we got to know what's in your bucket because obviously this end result requires certain things. So if something is then missing in your bucket, we got to figure out how to fill that bucket before we actually implement the change. Does that make sense? The other thing with the analysis is you got to be honest, and you got to be not brutally honest with yourself, but you just have to be honest, right? Nobody likes to, sit there and think like, well, I don't do this as well as somebody else, or somebody else I know would be more successful than that. Like, I don't want you to beat yourself up, but you got to be honest, and you got to say, okay, where's my learning curve? Because obviously anytime you try something new, there's going to be a learning curve, right? So just be honest. The other thing I'm going to highly recommend you do is poll other people. So, everybody has friends. You've got a support system. You might have raving fans. But here's the thing. You don't want to be told by people what you want to hear or what they think you want to hear, right? The best friends you can have, the best support system you can have are people who are honest and forthright with you when you ask them a question like, hey, so I'm considering doing this and it's going to require this. In your opinion, what do you think out of this list of, let's say, 5, 6 things, what do you think it would come easy to me? And what do you think would be maybe where I've got to put a lot of time and effort and energy in learning this? So just poll some other people in regards to where you're trying to go. You don't need them to beat down where you're at. It's where you're trying to go, okay? So now that we have this analysis and we have this framework, we figure out what's in that bucket. We figure out where you're trying to go. You've got the opinions of others. Now we got to create strategies. And I say that plurally, strategies. Because whenever you create change, you have to sit here and say, okay, I've got this way of doing this, I've got this way of doing this, I've got this way of doing this, and I got this way of doing this. And let me break this down to you really simple. So when my son was in, I think he was like 4th grade or 5th grade, we went to go back to school night, met his new teacher, and her degree was in math. And then she got, obviously, her teaching credentials. And she said, like, the greatest thing about math is there's multiple ways to solve one problem. There's multiple ways to solve one problem. And she said, so one part of your kiddo's homework is getting the right answer. But more importantly, she said, I want them to be able to articulate how they came up with that answer, because that's really what math is all about. There's so many different ways. And she said, I might be teaching something one way, and you as a parent might be teaching your child another way, and both are correct and they arrive at the same answer. It's just understanding that process. And I thought that was actually really fantastic because, in the world of creating change, you should have multiple strategies that you're going to deploy, right? That you're going to try, and you're going to figure out which one feels the best for you, okay? Also, like athletically, right? Fighting in the ring, that was my thing. There's brawlers, there's super fast, there's counter fighters, there's runners, and understanding all those different strategies again to say, okay, I'm gonna fight this fight is super, super important, right? So I gave you two different examples in regards to creating strategies, and what I'm hoping is one of those really resonates and sticks with you. Now, we create the strategies. So the next step, step 3, is you got to wrap your head around a performance mindset. Now, what's a performance mindset? A performance mindset says you're going to execute, you have high belief, you understand that obstacles are going to come in the way, but you're just not going to give up, right? Because change is, yes, it's simple, but it's never easy, right? You're going to have to go over a wall, through a wall, under a wall, whatever it takes. You're just going to have to keep moving yourself forward and moving yourself forward and moving yourself forward and moving yourself forward. And unfortunately, the mindset is we all want it to look like this, like you can go, right? But the reality is that it's going to do something like this and just keep getting higher and higher every time you learn, right? Step 4 is you got to come back to the drawing board. Because now if you think about it, now you got a ton of data, right? Of what you've been trying, what works well, what resonates with you, what comes easy to you, what's still difficult, right? What are the changes you need to make? So it's almost like you're doing another analysis, but it's a very funneled analysis because you've got your own data on how to create this change, right? And then from there, the last step is it's learning how to recognize and capitalize on the opportunities you're going to create. Because think about this. You have done all this work to create this change, to create massive change, right? Following my simple steps. So of course, now all of a sudden you're going to open doors and opportunity is going to be there. It's going to be there. And what's crazy about that is some people just don't know how to capitalize on it and implement it. So in my next video, I'm going to talk about how to capitalize and recognize the opportunities from your hard work of creating change. So I want you to always remember, when the dream is real, the grind is fun. Watch that next video right now to learn how to recognize and capitalize on the opportunities.